Hello fellow sim racers. 2 years ago today I uploaded my first video to YouTube, which started me on the journey that's led to whatever this is here today. It might surprise some of you to learn that I'm not an overly nostalgic person, particularly given that I produce a lot of content surrounding classic cars and racing series and the like. I am very much the sort of person that looks towards the future, so today's video is probably going to be a little bit weird for me. So I guess the best place to begin is at the beginning with the first video that I chose to upload to YouTube, and I guess the reason that I started this whole thing in the first place. Now, I may be confusing things a little bit, but I think the trigger for starting the YouTube channel was a video by Jimmy Broadbent. I'd been back into sim racing for a couple of years at that stage, and I was watching Jimmy, and I think it was this video, review the RSS GT pack when it first came out for Assetto Corsa. I thought this was amazing and decided to go and try and find more videos about Assetto Corsa mods, because I was just getting addicted to them. And there really weren't many. And I thought the Assetto Corsa modding scene had such a deep pool of talent and passionate people producing amazing mods that it really deserved to have more videos on YouTube on the subject. Now, I have a bit of a background in media and I was a professional photographer for a while, so I sort of thought I probably had the skills to cobble together a video. So I started off by documenting what I thought were my 5 favourite Assetto Corsa tracks at the time, and being a media person, I call it the best Assetto Corsa mod tracks, because that's how that works, unfortunately. Now, I've since changed my opinion on a number of those tracks, but the key thing was that I really enjoyed the process, and the video started to get views, and well, that's pretty addictive. Over the next few weeks, I made a number of man drives car type videos that honestly weren't very good, but views kept coming and I started to receive positive comments, and that was enough to convince me to continue going. The next key moment came when I decided to review the Bridgehampton mod by Lilski. Something clicked, and all of a sudden I decided it was important to try and convey some emotion within the videos, to try and not just talk about the technical aspects of it, but convey some of the history, some of the gravitas of a place like Bridgehampton, and that's very much informed everything I've done since. By July, I'd reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is a pretty important milestone for the platform. First of all, it allows you to monetize the content, but really for me, the idea of having a 4th digit in the subscriber count was far more important. To celebrate, I produced a spoof review of a game called, I think it was called Ultimate Racing 2D. Whatever the case, it was a Micro Machines style top-down racing game, and I produced a spoof review which I'm incredibly proud of to this day. Unfortunately, it's the video with the fewest views on the channel, so help me out a bit, guys. While it may not seem like there's much of a master plan going on here, there are a few guidelines that I try to live by when creating my videos. So to intersperse this origin story, here's a few of those guidelines so you can understand where I'm coming from when I'm making those videos. No live stream reviews. I've seen enough live stream reviews from people in the tech sphere to know that it's really easy to say something incredibly stupid when you're live. So I've got this pretty clear-cut rule that I never want to talk about something that I'm seeing for the first time on camera, because it'd be so easy to pan something just because I don't really understand what it's supposed to be doing. As the channel progressed, it became more and more obvious that informative, helpful content did really well on YouTube. There's only so much of an audience for Assetto Corsa mod reviews. I produced a setup guide detailing the pitfalls of putting together a triple screen setup, detailing everything I'd learned over the last 6 months putting my own one together. The algorithm really took hold of the video and things took off. My subscriber count rose massively, and for the first time I sort of felt like this YouTube thing was really starting to come together. Now, I've spoken about this next video quite recently as it happens. A guy called Phoenix from the forums reached out and said, "Hey, I'm a fan of your videos, would you like an advanced copy of this mod I'm working on, and maybe you can produce a video on your channel?" Now, I took a look at this mod, LA Canyons, and it wasn't really the sort of thing I was doing. I'm very much a road circuit racer, but after driving around for a little bit I saw the possibilities of this place and realised just how much I was enjoying it. Now, that extra time I had to produce the content and the enjoyment that I was getting from the mod itself changed the way I wanted to work from then on. Now, at every opportunity I've had since then, I've tried to get a few days to put together a video, rather than try to race every other YouTuber to get it out first. So I have to thank Phoenix very much for changing the way that I approach making videos. Perfect is the enemy of good. Yes, it's a butchered Voltaire quote, and yes, it's very motivational poster, but I've always found it difficult to commit to hitting the publish button. There's always something you can do better, there's always something you can tweak, and if you let those thoughts continue, it's so easy to just never publish anything to start with. And YouTube is a content monster, so that's a non-starter. Following on from the success of the triple screen setup guide, I knew it would be prudent to make another big instructional video, so why not tackle the subject of setups? I worked on this set of videos for over a month and it eventually spiraled into a 13 video series that honestly consumed my life. Looking back, it was a bit of a hellish undertaking, but I still get comments every week saying, "Hey man, I love the sim racing setup guide, can you do more videos like that?" And knowing that I'm helping people is a huge motivator for me. At about the same time that I was debuting the Sim Racing Setup Guide, Assetto Corsa Competizione was deep into its beta process. I had been producing videos for every build, but the one that seemed to really catch everyone's attention was for the Emil Jaguar. Now, I have a few people to thank for that extra attention. Jimmy Broadbent referenced it in his video on the Emil Jag. Kunos picked it up, I know Aris and Davide both shared it, and Antonella from 505 Games put it all over their social channels, and the impact that had on the YouTube numbers at the time was astonishing. And honestly, I can't underplay just how much help everyone that ever shares a piece of content does for the channel. But that wasn't the only thing that was important about the Emil Jaguar video for me. I felt it was the first time I managed to really convey my passion for racing cars in a way that made sense to me through my videos. Don't give screen time to things you don't like. This one should be really obvious, but ultimately it's just a really miserable experience making videos about something you don't like. That's why I've turned down review items and sent things back in the past where I just don't believe in the product. As the channel began to grow, it was obvious that more and more people within the industry were starting to trust me. The guys from Sector 3 reached out with a pair of new releases that they wanted to give me exclusive access to produce some videos before they went live. I had a whale of a time producing content for the Race Room Group C stuff and the Porsche 964, both very much my kind of cars. The important thing for me about those videos though was being able to actually communicate with the guys at Sector 3 to understand exactly what had gone into producing that content. I ended up having a 3-hour-long phone conversation with Alex about just what had gone into developing the physics for the cars, and a light bulb went off in my head. This was one of the most interesting sim racing conversations I'd ever had, and I wanted to be able to share those kind of conversations with you guys. So, Talking Sims was born. The premise was really simple. I would get a guest on the show and we would just talk in depth about their area of expertise within the sim racing industry. During that time, I've had some fantastic guests who've shared their passion and knowledge quite freely, and honestly, I can genuinely say that no one has refused a question, no one has said, actually, I don't want to answer that, or actually, that's a bit off limits. Everyone has been truly honest and open. And I have to thank Jimmy in particular, who, after his episode, actually stayed on the line for a good couple of hours giving me some feedback and advice, which was invaluable. In fact, it even got to the point where I was starting to feel a bit guilty and I kind of had to end the call because I felt I was wasting his time at that stage. The only race on YouTube is a race to the bottom. Now this one I firmly believe in. Being first on YouTube is incredibly hard work. It requires that you sacrifice your time, your sanity, and the quality of your content just to try and get out ahead of other content creators, and I just have no interest in doing that. I'd rather make a video that I'm happy with than a video that's done quickly. Now, the next one's not a specific video, but regular viewers of the channel will know just how important the SRO eSport GT series was for me last year. Bram from Race Department reached out in about March and said, hey, we need another commentator to come out to Monza and commentate on some eSports stuff. Are you interested? And of course, I pretty much bit his arm off. What followed was a year of incredible events, wonderful opportunities, and the opportunity to work with some of the most amazing people I've ever had the chance to work with. That almost brings us up to date, or at least to the end of last year anyway. The final video that I want to highlight here is something that I've been working on for about 6 months. Jackson and the other IER guys reached out and said, hey, maybe you'd like to do a video on our new mod, the P13C. After having more conversations with Jackson, I realised that this mod was going to be something special and it required videos to be as such. After all, this was the whole reason that I started the channel in the first place, to be able to highlight what was going on in the Assetto Corsa modding scene and expose some of the crazy efforts and amazing talent that was going on behind the scenes. I'm particularly proud of how those videos came out, and the community reception was fantastic all around. Now, being on YouTube for a couple of years means there were a couple of missteps along the way. My favourite of which was a live stream from Spa where nobody could hear a word I was saying, particularly impressive given that I studied audio engineering at university. Next up was the launch of the Patreon, which I wasn't overly comfortable with at the time, and after running it for a couple of months and realising that literally nobody had downloaded any of the assets that were uploaded to Patreon or watched any of the update videos, I was starting to realise that it felt far too much like begging for my own comfort, so I quietly shut that down. Thank you to everyone that did support the Patreon at the time, but I just couldn't square it away mentally. Now, the final misstep, and by far the biggest, were 2 videos that I made about RoboRace. Now, these were a huge amount of work. I hired a cameraman, I went on site, I conducted interviews, I put together what I thought were 2 quite interesting documentaries about an interesting futuristic racing series, but I made a bit of a miscalculation, and that was that you guys would be interested in autonomous racing. As it turns out, not so much. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm very much a person that's focused on the future, so that's what I'm going to talk about now. For me, the immediate future very much means baby. My wife Charlotte and I are expecting our first son in a couple of weeks, or to be perfectly honest, any day now for all I know, so things might get a bit rocky on the channel in the near future. I may have to start cutting down on some of the labour-intensive videos that I've been making of late and produce some more racing content or maybe some live streams. Honestly, who knows? I don't know what life's going to be like in the next few months. So, while time is definitely going to be more pressured, and family's always going to be my primary focus, I can say for sure that YouTube is now the second biggest focus in my life. So, while I can't say that I'm going full-time exactly, I can definitely tell you guys that I'm in this for the long haul. Finally, I think it's important to thank some of the people that have helped me out along the way. CJ, Gluten Free, Alpha Lobster and AJ, who run the Discord and do all of our community races, have been lifesavers and often act as both a moral compass, a sounding board, and I've already said both, so that's enough things. On top of that, there's all of the people at Kunos, Sector 3, iRacing, etc. who've put their trust in me to make videos about their work. Honestly, it's been an incredible pleasure. But the biggest thank you, as cliched as it is for everyone that's ever watched, shared, commented, liked, subscribed, and all of that stuff, any of the videos. Honestly, YouTube is an attention medium, so the fact that you're giving up your precious time to watch some silly English bloke talk about racing sims means the world to me. So I guess the best way to round this out is to ask you guys a question. What do you want to see more of on the channel this year? Other than asking about changing from 21:9, I'm doing that for really boring technical reasons, and when I can change it, I will. So guys, thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.